All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Eric with Truckee Fire. We'll get going here for the 2026 Defensible Space Work Plan webinar. Thanks for taking some time to join us this afternoon. Looks like Amber's already found the Q&A. So you guys are all muted during the first, 30 to 45 minutes of presentation. And so please, use the chat or the Q&A to put your questions in the chat as we're presenting. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll be able to have you all use the raise hand feature. We can unmute you and go live with some question and answers as well and have some good engagement. So the meeting is recorded. That's already happening, and we'll make sure it gets posted up on our Defensible Space webpage and distributed back out to our Firewise focus to make sure you all can share this with your community. All right, so today we're going to be talking all about defensible space here in Truckee Fire. We'll be going into our Measure T program updates, talking about defensible space inspections for the year, the green waste buffet that we have for you all at the curbside here in Truckee, our home hardening program, some education and assistance programming we have going on, as well as why healthy forests protect our communities and offer some great benefits. And we'll talk into some of the projects that we have going on in the community this year as well. So before we give in, just want to do just quick rounds of introduction so you all are familiar with our team here. So Truckee's Wildfire Prevention Team, we work directly under the fire chief. I'm Eric Hornvet. I'm our Wildfire Prevention Manager. If you have met him in the woods, Dylan Sheedy is our forester. And then we have three other full-time employees as well that most of you all have probably met. Maria Marsh, Sophia Houston, who's on the call today, and Brittany Shelton Dooley. And then we have a great rockstar team of 5 defensible space specialists that will be your go-to contacts to walk your property, talk about defensible space, home hardening, and all those things. So easiest way to get a hold of us is our dspace@truckeefire.org email or phone line, and you can get in touch with us and we'll get a lot of great work done in the community. So before we start, I want to lay the ground a little bit with a community fire disaster sequence. So this has been around for a while. It was done out of post-wildfire damage inspections and really coined by a physical scientist named Jack Cohen. If you know anything about the wildfire world, he's like one of the leading physical scientists that found out about ember ignition and all those things. But this is really what we have going on. This is a little oversimplified, but we have some environmental conditions, right? We know that our Truckee area and our forests are at a severe wildfire potential, right? Big accumulation of fuels. We have hot and dry weather patterns, red flag days, strong winds that can really spread wildfire intensely and fastly. We also know that there can be extreme wildfire conditions, right? We've all seen how devastating these fires can be, especially in the last decade. And we can see high rates of intensity, rapid spread, and that control of these large damaging fires really overwhelms the suppression system. Even in the state of California with one of the best interagency fire systems, there's still too much fire, too fast, impinging too many community assets at once that the suppression system is overwhelmed. And there's just not enough air attack resources or boots on the ground that you can put in the way to just put these fires out like we've been so successful at doing since the 1930s when we waged our initial war against wildfire. So really what it comes down to is this fork in the road. If we have these fires under severe wildfire potential with extreme wildfire conditions, and when the suppression system gets overwhelmed, we have 2 potential outcomes, and it really is set up by what the community conditions are. So if we have vulnerable structures that are easily ignited by fast-moving wildfire, embers, continuous vegetation, simultaneous structure ignitions at once, the outcome quickly can become an urban conflagration where multiple structures are burning at the same time. The suppression system is completely overwhelmed and overtaxed. And you can see this home-to-home ignition and this domino effect where we see a fire disaster happen. The other option, which I'm really hoping is where Truckee's racing to and why you're here today to learn more, is that we can focus on ignition resistance. We can look into these vulnerable areas, address our defensible space, button up our home hardening goals, have minimal ignitions, minimal spread, and we can see a community that survives a wildfire so we can learn to live with wildfire. Again, to talk a little bit of the fire fundamentals here, there's 3 main ways a home can burn down in a wildfire. I'm going to start on the right and work my way back to the left. One way is radiant heat, right? That is that intense heat you feel when you're sitting around a campfire So if your shed catches on fire and it's too close to your home, that radiant heat can impact your structure. The other way is direct flame contact. That is like a burning shrub or a burning tree. Directly, those flames are kind of licking or impinging your home, causing ignition that way. And the most important thing that we look at when we're talking about wildfire is embers. We actually know that about 90% of homes ignite through a small ember ignition and then a pathway that then turns into too much radiant heat and direct flame contact to a house. So when we're looking at defensible space, that's really why you see us zoom in on the structure, little simple home hardening updates, vegetation and combustible items within zone 0, and what could be ignited from embers and then promulgate that fire spread to the home. So we're really looking to evolve our home, our landscape, and our community to be prepared to receive embers when we do have a wildfire and avoid as much direct flame contact and radiant heat we can through our defensible space and community development measures. All right, this is my favorite way of explaining why we're so focused on fuel reduction, defensible space, and forest management. And we break it up into triangles. Us firefighters really like learning in triangles. You just have to think about 3 things at once. It's not too complicated, right? It's not rocket science. We try to make it simple. But the general fire triangle, right? For us to have fire, you need to have a heat source, oxygen, and fuel. Those are the basic 3 elements that you just need to start and sustain fire. And then on the right, we have a fire behavior triangle that describes what main elements drive fire behavior, right? Increase intensity, increase flame length, rate of spread, all those type of things. And it's weather, think hot, dry, windy, red flag days. Topography, we know that we live in a very mountainous area and fire moves much faster uphill with topography. And then it's fuel, right? What is the continuity? How dense is it? How overgrown and overdensified are our forests conditions? And the good thing is that if you remove an element from either of these triangles, you break up that fire behavior. And so just keep in mind that this is really well grounded. And if we can manage fuel and do it right, we can really be evolved to live with fire and avoid community disaster. All right, so with that, let's dig into why you're all here and talk about our defensible space and home hardening programs. So in Truckee Fire, we have this going all year long, is that you can schedule a free defensible space evaluation from now all the way through October. So if you haven't done that, please take advantage of that resource. It's great. You go to truckeefire.org/dspace. You can usually pick a date and a time as early as tomorrow, all summer long, Monday to Friday, and have an inspector come on site, meet with you, walk and talk, answer all your questions, and really engage closer with you to get you that education on wildfire and make sure you know all the programs that we have available in Truckee to help you get this work done. We're really well equipped in Truckee, and it's a great resource to be able to have that kind of free educational evaluation on site, on demand, have it available all summer long. So take advantage of that. Many of our programs need that in-person full access inspection to get you eligible for some rebates, so use that. The other thing that we have going on is we're on a 3-year inspection cycle. We started this in 2022 after Measure T was passed. So we've conducted initial inspections of just about all homes within our fire district. And now we're re-inspecting areas that we've inspected previously. So we're measuring progress, giving kudos for the work that's been done, and then making sure we identify any vulnerabilities or maintenance items that we need to make sure we continue to address. Here's our big confusing map. If you know where you live in the fire district, this is great, but this is the area where we're going to be focusing our inspections in 2026. And it's all the areas, outlined in red and highlighted on this map. So a lot of inspections will be happening up on the summit, a lot in central Truckee and Sierra Meadows, a central portion of Glenshire, and then all the way out to Floriston and Hobart Mills and those areas as well. Our next slide that we have coming up, we'll talk about our timing this year. So as we work through our inspection program this year, this is our general target timing of when we will have our inspectors in your neighborhood inspecting every developed and undeveloped lot for these defensible space pieces and working with your community. So far, we already inspected Floriston. We're wrapping up Glenshire, and we're getting ready to move into Sierra Meadows as we fastly are approaching into June. Then we'll be partnering with some inspections up in Sugar Bowl, working into Donner Creek Mobile Home Park. July, you'll see us really in the more central Truckee area, Old Greenwood, Prosser Dam Road, Alder Hill, Prosser Lake Heights, Stony Creek, Pine Forest, Pannonia Ranchos. So all those areas there, 89 North in Truckee. August, we'll move into Donner Crest, Meadow Park and Gatewood, so over by the hospital and high school. And then as we approach the fall, we'll be covering all of our Donner Summit communities from Soda Springs and Norden all the way to Cisco Grove. So that's our general plan for this summer and when you can expect to see our inspectors in your neighborhood. So one thing I want to make sure everyone on this call knows is, how do we conduct our inspections? It's a question we get quite a bit. Well, the easy answer is we respect people's privacy and we conduct our inspections from the public right away. So it's really from the public and private roads and the reasonable access from that street network or road network to the front door. So think about the same pathway that a delivery driver or a mailman used to take. That's where we inspect from. So when we run into situations with gated access, no trespassing signs, things like that, sometimes we have limitations, but we walk the streets in pairs. We conduct plain view inspections of what we can see from that roadway and access path to the front door. We always knock on the door and do our best to make contact with anyone that might be at the home and talk about what we're doing and why we're there and why this defensible space education work is so important. And then we leave a door hanger with an access code to access that inspection. So each property, each APN, each physical address has its own unique code that you have to use to log into our online inspection report. One thing that's a little bit different is when we go out on our scheduled inspections or requested inspections for things like property sale or those things, is that the goal of these inspections is to walk hand in hand with a resident, a tenant, an owner, a property manager, do a 360 view of the whole property to really understand the risks and the recommendations that we can do on that property, and have that great in-person conversation and education opportunity. So we have a lot of different inspection types in our schedule system set up that you pick the right type for what you're looking for. So general inspection is great if you want to just general defensible space inspection or education. When you get into property sale or construction or short-term rentals, we have some different inspection schedules that you need to use to schedule those inspections. One more thing is that residents can choose to grant temporary right of entry to the fire district. This gives us the ability for this one fire season only to temporarily have the ability to walk 360 around your property. So if you know you're going to be out of town, or maybe your HOA or Firewise committee really wants to message and encourage your community members to allow full access to the property, it's something we can do, but we only do it if we've been told we can. So if you're familiar with our FireAside inspection software, you would log in and there's a property permission selections where you could grant temporary seasonal access so that we could walk a full property. But as I said, that's only at the permission and grant of the homeowner. All right, so this is what our door hangers look like. So on the left is our standard defensible space notice on a door hanger. So you'll see that we're asking you to review your report, complete the work, submit photos, or schedule a re-inspection so we can give you credit and kudos for all the work that's been done. And then, as always, work with your neighbors to create a fire-safe community. We got a great website set up to access it. You have your access code. And then on the right is a postcard that we have. And we really use this to make sure that we're communicating with undeveloped lots or residents that aren't here. So if you don't go view your inspection within 2 weeks after we've conducted our inspection, then you get a postcard sent to your mailing address where your taxes go that has the similar information to the door hanger on the back, and really are encouraging everyone to at least open, review their report, understand their risks, and know what they can do to prepare for wildfire. We also have some other communications that we do. So we're always looking to improve our communications where we can with website, newspaper, social media, Firewise communities, public events. So we really appreciate the partnerships with all of our HOAs and Firewise leaders as we work to continue to message these defensible space initiatives. We do work on sending out some pre-inspection emails, right? As we've built this inspection program, we're collecting a lot of contact info, and we like to let people know when we're coming so they can be a little more prepared and engaged with us. And then one more thing is we send out post-inspection emails. So we summarize some findings, make sure that our FireWise leaders and HOAs are equipped with an overview of kind of some of the top issues that we found, and really can do a better job of connecting, driving more action, and keeping the conversations alive within the community. All right, we're going to give you guys the fast breakdown of our 3 different defensible space zones and what we're looking for. So hopefully everyone on this call is already aware of this, but the first zone that we look at is zone 0, and that really is looking at your house and the first 5 feet around it. This is the ember resistant zone. We really are preparing the home to receive embers and resist any sort of ignition that could create a spread or fire pathway to the home. A fun fact here, this is the most important defensible space zone, and the work that we do in zone 0 doubles the home's likelihood of surviving a wildfire. So it's really important. This zone can be challenging, right? We get into stored items and materials and patio furniture and all kinds of things. So, right, lean in, ask questions, work with us. There's certain items that are defensible space violations, like pine needles and juniper shrubs growing in zone 0. And then there's other items that are best practice, right? Like thinking about upgrading your patio furniture to metal when you need to replace it, moving your wood piles away from the home during summer, those type of things. So we try to work with you all and manage this zone as best as possible. So like I said, be curious, ask questions, lean in. We really want to get this zone right and help manage this space with your guys' goals as well. So as we work through zone 0, these are the most common things that we find, and it's overgrown vegetation and planted shrubs in this zone that are readily ignited by embers and then can transmit that fire to the home. A lot of tree limbs that are either directly touching or overhanging the house, the fences, the decks, the eaves that we need to just limb a little bit. Constant maintenance items with leaves or pine needles on the ground, on the roof, on and under decks and stairs and in the gutters. And then, as I talked about a little bit earlier, just that general combustible storage. So lumber, building materials, firewood, and then everyday things that we think are, and don't necessarily look at as a fire hazard, but that we need to think a little bit smarter on as a community during fire season. As we get into zone 1, now we're talking from 5 feet out to 30 feet. Or if you have a smaller lot, that could even be to your property line as the maximum spot. But we're really just thinking lean, clean, and green. So keep this area with minimal vegetation, prune the dead out, and keep it, green, hydrated, irrigated, and as low fire risk as possible. The big takeaway for zone 1 is don't be dense. Let's thin our trees. We try not to be big sticklers on meeting that perfect 10 feet canopy spacing everywhere, but if there's somewhere where we're going to be doing it, it's zone 1, right? It's really creating that spacing between grasses, shrubs, trees, landscaping, and our precious homes. So embrace that, right? We have a massive forest densification issue, and we have a lot of great programs to help us thin our forests, create that spacing, and create that safe network in our communities. As we move out to zone 2, now we're looking a little bit farther away from the home, right? We're looking from 30 feet out to 100 feet, sometimes more if you're a really avid defensible space rock star and you want to continue to manage your property farther. And really, this is where we usually start to see the defensible space zones overlapping properties. So just know we're never asking you to go do work on your neighbor's property, but our inspection program does inspect developed and undeveloped lots, and we're trying to manage this exposure community-wide. So we would be sometimes asking neighbors to do a little bit more work on their property to help provide for this 100 feet of defensible space across property boundaries. Overall, when we compile our 33,000 inspections that have been completed in the last 5 years across 17,000 properties in our fire districts, this is what we found are the top 10 defensible space issues. And maybe why you saw the don't be dense, thin your trees. The number 1 item that we're finding consistently is that we need more spacing with our trees, right? We want to keep our healthy, large, resilient trees. And we want to keep some nice small trees that have room to grow and open space to do it. What we don't want is these dense thicket of trees, small trees growing underneath larger trees as ladder fuels, right? We really want to get to a spot where we have a nice, healthy mosaic forest in our communities. We also see a lot of tree limbing. Good news is this is an easy one. You just got to get out your pole saw and do a little bit of limbing 6 feet above the ground. A lot of vegetation spacing when it comes to shrubs, right? So looking at whether it's sagebrush, bitterbrush, manzanita, tobacco brush, snow brush, right? We really want to address this nice shrub spacing and think about our landscape like a checkerboard and getting some clear spaces between individual clusters of shrubs. And then all the other ones we already talked about, right? Pine needles on the ground, just a constant maintenance piece up here in Truckee. We're blessed to live in the trees, but that means we get to rake a tremendous number of cubic yards of pine needles every year. So embrace it, smile, have fun doing it. And then the one I'm really hoping to get off of this list is vegetation in zone 0, right? I really hope we can embrace how important zone 0 is and that we can get to a balanced ember resistant zone in this area and get this vegetation off of our list. So there's my challenge to you all on the call. Let's really get the vegetation in zone 0 off of this list.
All right, Eric, thank you for that. Now that we have kind of a good idea of the challenges we're facing here in Truckee and our goals for the community, we can give you all a quick rundown of the different programs that we have available to help support us in those endeavors. So, Truckee Fire's Defensible Space programs, we have free inspections available, like Eric touched on, free green waste pickup, as well as a few other programs in our green waste buffet, which we'll get into, 6-yard dumpster rebates. You can rent a dumpster and put your green waste in there. Firewise workday dumpster reimbursements. So larger dumpsters trying to support our Firewise communities who are doing community workdays. Home hardening rebate, reflective address sign program, and our dead tree fund. So as far as our green waste disposal options, anytime you have a question or need to be routed to something related to green waste, this website link down here, truckeefire.org/green waste, is where you want to go. You can also send us an email, greenwaste@truckeefire.org, if you have any customer service needs. But we have our free curbside pickup, as you all know, that is up and running. We definitely encourage you to check out our website. That page has everything you need to know on eligibility for piles, how to stack them, what kind of material is eligible. For example, we don't accept pine needles or trash or rocks in the piles, so things like that. Definitely go to our website if you're planning on requesting pile pickup so that you are really lined out on the eligibility. And then the grapple truck will come within 2 weeks and pick up your pile. It's a really neat program. It operates in Tahoe Donner as well. Truckee Fire 6-yard dumpster rebate. Again, like I said, you can rent a 6-yard dumpster if you've got a lot of work to do, a lot of green waste to get rid of, a lot of pine needles, and we will reimburse you 75% of the cost. The cost, of course, varies depending on where you live, and you'll need to get with TTSD in order to rent that. We also offer Firewise dumpster rebate. So like I said, we're really looking to have these do more than one community workday in a fire season, rent those larger dumpsters and get as much green waste out of their Firewise communities as possible. And we're there to support that financially. And then if you are in the town of Truckee, you have those standard green yard waste carts available. If you're in our fire district and not in the town of Truckee, we are offering you an additional 6-yard dumpster rebate offer in order to kind of offset the fact that if you're in unincorporated Placer in Nevada County, you don't get those green carts. There's also self-haul to the ERL. You get 6 yards annually of self-haul green waste to the Eastern Regional Landfill, and they have a really handy online format now. Prior it was a punch card, now it's a QR code, so it's transferable. You can share it with your contractors or a buddy that's doing the work for you, or you can bring it yourself, and they keep track of how many yards you've used before you meet your 6 yards annually. We also have 4 separate drop-off events this season where you can bring your pine needles, bring your yard waste, bring your branches, and just drop it off at either the rodeo grounds or Tahoe Donner. So this coming Friday, we actually have our very first one of the year. It's going to be in Tahoe Donner at 14942 Slalom Way. All of these events are going to be running from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then another one Saturday, June 27th at the Truckee Rodeo Grounds, so at 150 Brockway Road. Another one in July on the 10th as well at Truckee Rodeo Grounds. And then we're going to close out the season in September on the 4th at Tahoe Donner once again, 14942 Slalom Way. Please drop off your residential yard waste. This is self-service. Don't exceed 3 yards per trip of waste. Please no bags, no rocks, dirt, commercial yard waste. Last year we had some horse manure, so try to keep things respectful of the program. We don't accept rounds larger than 24 inches, stumps, boards, or of course trash. These are some highlights and statistics from our 2025 curbside green waste pickup. We had 16,410 cubic yards of flammable vegetation that was picked up. 67% cited the curbside program as causing them to remove the vegetation. 3,601 piles serviced district-wide. And then we have $386.89 driving resident investment, as each pickup had an average of this amount and spent almost 8 hours on average preparing these piles. So it just goes to show that our community is investing their own hard-earned money, sweat, hopefully not tears, into creating these piles and getting our community in a better place. And then we have $61,970 in green waste dumpster rebates funded in order to aid residents in the removal of pine needles and loose yard waste. This program has been really well received by the community. So here's a nice quote from a Glenshire resident. Really appreciate the work you're all doing to get this funded and running. It's a huge help. Defensible space clearing can be intimidating. So this free service provides one less thing to worry about or coordinate as a homeowner in the process. Okay, moving on, we have our home hardening rebate, which is available to offer homeowners in our fire district matching funds up to $2,000. So that means 50% of the cost up to $2,000. If you spend $1,000 on a home hardening upgrade, we will give you $500 back. And it's $2,000 per parcel for the life of the program. Some examples of home hardening upgrades that could be eligible for this rebate are vents. So installing ember resistant vents or screening off your vents with 1/8 inch or less metal mesh screening. Exposed space under your deck and closing those loaded grade decks with metal mesh screening as well, or some other kind of ember resistant enclosure. Covering your exposed wood piles with approved fire resistant tarps. If you have a combustible fence that attaches to the house, replacing that first 5 feet of fencing with non-combustible material. Boxing in your eaves to prevent ember entry, and then replacing single pane with multi-pane tempered windows. Another one that's not on here is if you have combustible mulch or wood chips or dirt in your zone 0, installing gravel in that first 5 feet to really just make that zone 0, that first 5 feet all the way around your house, extra resilient. And we have link down below, truckeefire.org/harden your home. That's where you can find all things rebate. And you can also email hardenyourhome@truckeefire.org. One other thing that we have to financially support our residents is the Dead Tree Fund. We launched this in the fall of 2025. And our goal here is to offer financial assistance for primary residents here in Truckee, so owner occupied, they live here full time. And we will give you that same 50% up to $2,000 assistance to help offset the cost of a dead tree removal. In order to qualify, the applicant must own and occupy the single family residence as their primary residence. And they also must have had a full access defensible space inspection from the last year that specifically identifies the dead tree that they are wanting to remove and use the rebate for. Then once the trees have been removed, so it's on the resident to go out and find a licensed contractor, get a reasonable bid. You can then submit your application and receive reimbursement of 50% of the total removal cost, again, with a maximum of $2,000. So here's just some examples, again, of upgrades that you can make to your home. Wood shingle roofs to Class A or fire-resistant roofs, open or exposed eaves to closed or box eaves, wood siding to a fire-resistant material siding, upgrading your single pane windows to dual pane windows, replacing your mulch with gravel or pebbles, any openings in your siding, screening them off or caulking them in, and then decks. Yeah, replacing your decks if they are softwood with something more resilient, or if they're in poor condition, staining them. I'm not sure what, Eric, could you touch on what these last little bits on the deck on the bottom right mean?
Yeah, I mean, generally with decks, it's pretty easy. We're really focused on decks that are within 4 feet from the ground. So low to grade decks, we want you to clean out underneath of them and then use non-combustible skirting like a cement board siding or metal paneling around to enclose them. Other options that can happen are things like making sure you have the proper flashing, like metal flashing between your wood deck boards where they meet your house, or things of that nature. So if you have a question on decks, just get us out for an inspection and we can look closer at what you have going on.
Thank you. Again, truckeefire.org/harden your home. We have DIY guides on there to help you get some good ideas on what things might be beneficial to your home specifically. Of course, getting an inspection and letting your inspector know that you're interested in the home hardening rebate is the best move. That's a great first step. We have retailer supply lists as well as the contractor list linked for CAT, which has a directory of contractors who offer home hardening services. And of course, we have more information on our rebate and, oops. Sorry, guys. We have more information on our rebate and the application is linked on there as well. We also have a reflective address sign program where property owners can get 1 free reflective address sign to improve their visibility of their home during an emergency event. For example, during a wildfire, there might be smoke obstructing the visibility of your address numbers. So these can help out a lot. The steps in order to get your free address sign is, number 1, schedule a defensible space inspection. And when your inspector arrives at your house, they will, of course, walk and talk your property with you and then create the sign for you right there on the spot. They're handmade. You can also visit Truckee Fire booths at any in-person events like Truckee Day, Truckee Thursdays, Truckee Farmers Markets, or your Firewise Communities events. And you can request an inspection through one of them. We'll have our iPads open. We'll be able to get you scheduled that way. And then we will give you your address sign once you have scheduled an inspection. Signs are, again, only available during inspections or in-person events, not available online, by email, or at fire stations. We also have a really cool Defensible Space Assistance Program where we partner with the Sierra Watershed Education Partnerships, SWEP for short, as well as TTUSD, the Tahoe Truckee Unified School District. And our goal is to provide defensible space assistance for eligible owner-occupied primary residents, basically supporting residents in our community with identified needs for whatever reason. Maybe they are elderly or disabled or low income. We want to plug into those more vulnerable populations and help them achieve the defensible space work needed. And it's also a great opportunity for our local students to learn about fire science and wildfire prevention, and then apply the skills through hands-on work. We'll literally bring these kids onto the property and have them help out in the form of dragging a bunch of brush into dumpsters like you see here in these photos. Since 2023, over 400 students have participated, and we're always looking for eligible candidates for the program. So if you know someone that you think would benefit from this program that could use some help from the fire district and the school district in creating defensible space around their home, email us, tspace@truckeefire.org, or give us a call. Another thing that we have been working really hard on lately is updating our website to be really just like a centralized hub of information for you all, where you can go to truckeefire.org/wildfire prevention and find information on all of our programs. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to that really quick and just show you what we're working with. We have this fun little data set here that is updating in real time. And then everything is broken down into sections. So you have questions about defensible space, inspections, accessing your report. You can go here into defensible space assistance programs like the Dead Tree Fund, the address sign, and the assistance work days that we just talked about, home hardening, rebate, as well as the other resources like contractor lists on the home hardening page. Green waste, this is where you'll go to request your pile pickup, as well as find information and applications for the rebate reimbursements and the dumpster reimbursements and rebates, as well as the information on all of our free drop-off events. And then real estate, if you're selling your house, you need to get a defensible space inspection, you'll go there. We also have all things fire-wise here, grants, which Eric will touch on in a second, forestry projects, community wildfire protection plan, insurance questions. We know insurance can be a tough topic here. So if you need some resources, we have a lot of great information as far as things that you can share with your insurance company on this page. And then more information on our campfire and charcoal bans, red flag warnings, emergency alerts and evacuation information. We even have a Spanish page. And then forestry projects. I'll let Eric talk a little more about this map and the great forestry projects that we have going on right now. So with that, I will throw it back to Eric to talk about forest management.
Great, thanks, Sophia. So just a few more minutes. We're going to go through forestry and a couple other things, and then open it up to any more questions that we have. So going on for forest management projects, I'm going to start with highlighting some of the stuff that we wrapped up in 2025. These are all our forester, Dylan Sheedy's projects. He's been doing a great job connecting with our private and HOA and community landowners and getting a lot of great, healthy, and resilient forest work done in our community. So the big projects that we got done last year was almost 1,000 acres. So there was a large project done just to the east of Glenshire, the Glenshire to Hurstdale Egress Forest Management Project. In central Truckee, we started around Sierra College and the hospital and did a 72-acre forest management project. And then there's a project that's just now wrapping up in the next week or two, which was kind of a perimeter fuel reduction project around Olympic Heights and the old Greenwood community, stuff that you can see from Glenshire Drive and even I-80 when you're driving by Overland Trail going past old Greenwood, which is awesome. And as we come into this year, we're back one, sorry there. As we come into 2026, we have a few things going on. One is we're going to have a highly visible project going on in central Truckee. You guys probably all know this area well. It's where we just had a 1-acre wildland fire on Saturday, right uphill of Safeway. So our forester has been planning a project on that hillside for the last year and a half, working with 20 different landowners, the PUD, the hospital, and a lot of others to prepare about a 300-acre project. We're really going to be getting that hillside right. So we're going to be getting the forest back to a healthy density, addressing some of the overgrowth of shrubs and trees, and making sure that we don't keep having, now our second fire in 2 years start near our community and race quickly up towards Coyote Moon and Muir Valley and Tahoe Donner and those communities up in that area. So we're really excited to get that project in and have a really visible, staple, healthy forest project right in the center of Truckee where everyone goes shopping. The other project that we're going to be working on this summer that we're crossing our fingers we have full funding for is working around Alder Creek Middle School, Pine Forest, Village Camp, Coachland, Spring Creek communities on about an 80 to 100 acre fuel reduction project there. And then a big one that we've had going on for the last couple of years is Truckee Fire, really with the leadership of our forester. Dylan was successful in rallying a bi-county, local, state, and federal collaborative to chase down an $8 million grant from CAL FIRE that's going to be treating about 2,700 acres all around the perimeter of our Truckee community. So a lot of great work happening that we're able to amplify the efforts and chase down some partnerships and grants and get even more work done than we can do alone with just Measure T or the private investments that all of our landowners bring to the table. Here's some before and afters of what our projects look like. So this is the Glenshire project taken from Glenshire Drive as you're headed down towards Hurstdale. So you can see how really densely overgrown this project was. We had about shin to knee-high, fully continuous brush, and just a really dense, over-encroached east side Jeffrey pine forest type. So we were able to come in with mechanized equipment, get that stand density back to a resilient or more historical condition, really address the overgrowth of fuels, and secure some really good forest health and this primary evacuation route of the Glenshire community. So awesome project. This is the Olympic Heights project. This is a picture taken from Glenshire Drive, looking back up at the steep slope right near Olympic Heights. So similar thing here where you're seeing that we're going in, really reducing, the dead and fully contiguous bitter brush component, doing a little bit of lighter tree thinning in this project area, and then making sure we're limbing trees up and kind of really getting back to a more discontinuous, open, park-like fuel reduction area around these communities. And the last one that had a really big change, this is taken up by Sierra College at their disc golf course, looking back down over Donner Pass Road, past the MacGyver Dairy property and the Villager Nursery, if you all know where that's at. And you're seeing the density before. We couldn't even hardly see the sky through the forest stand when we came into the project, yet alone you couldn't tell that you were in the middle of Truckee and looking down on Donner Pass Road. And then once the project's completed, we got some good tree spacing, still a lot of shade, and we're really excited to see that Sierra College property right in the heart of Truckee, really well protected and being in a healthy, resilient condition. So if you want to see where projects are going on around you, we have this great link here. So you can click truckeefire.org, projects. It's a fully interactive map. I'm going to have Sophia scroll down and zoom in on our Central Truckee WUI Phase 2 project in purple right by the hospital, just so you can see where we're going to be this summer. But this map's a great resource for our community. Everything in green has been completed in the last 5 years. Everything in orange is what's currently being implemented, and everything in purple is what's planned to be implemented in the next, hopefully 1 to 5 years. So we are forecasting out a little bit. But great resource, check out the work. You can click on these links, see project name, size, project types, treatment types, goals, all that type of stuff. So the polygon that we have highlighted right now is just showing you what you can see, and you get, pretty high resolution of kind of what our planned project areas are, what treatment types we're doing, who's implementing it, all those great details that you can use. Pro tip, insurance actually starting to like this stuff. So if you're talking to your community or boards or residents that are having, problems with insurance, which we know many are with 75% of our homes on the California Fair Plan, is that, these fuel reduction mitigations matter a lot. So, when you're shopping insurance, talking to a broker, maybe trying to shop to get yourself off the Fair Plan, use this map if you know of fuel reduction projects near your home, near your community, and use this to your advantage, coupled with your defensible space report showing that you have zero issues and you've done all this great home hardening work. And we have seen some levels of success with homeowners getting off the Fair Plan, getting back on, the open competitive insurance market, and even saving, thousands of dollars in the process. Great. One other great project that, we love doing every year is that Measure T promised that we'd get money right back into our community to implement, and we've stayed true to that. So we make about $500,000 available every year for you all to bring your projects to us. So we call this our Community Wildfire Prevention Grant Program. We had applications due and reviewed, and we're waiting for our next board meeting to award our 2026 projects. So we'll be really excited to get those announced here soon and get Measure T back into our community implementers to help us get more work done together. All right, and before we wrap up, I want to show you guys a couple testimonies of why we're doing all this work. So this is a picture that came out of a fire in Colorado where you had a small home in a pretty rural area, and you're seeing during a fire spread that the untreated area was completely destroyed. Every pine needle on the forest floor, through the brush, through the timber, to the top of the trees. But when that fire entered that forest treatment unit, right, that fire was initially had a lot of heat, a lot of steam. It took about a couple hundred feet, and that fire reduced intensity, laid back down on the forest floor, and created a space where firefighters were able to start being successful with putting the fire out. So just a great thing that shows that this work that we do, does work, and why we're so focused on a lot of this work directly buffering and around our community so we can reduce that fire intensity, bring it to the ground, give our firefighters a safe place to operate and suppress, and reduce that ember load and exposure that we see to the communities. And one other picture that came out of some Forest Service research that I'm hoping we can get to in Truckee eventually is they're comparing and contrasting a landscape level high severity fire in untreated, thin only at the bottom, and thin with prescribed fire in the middle. And so this has been some research that's been tested time and time again all over the Intermountain West, is that the best outcomes we can get for forest health and forest resilience is to bring ecologically beneficial fire back to our forest. And so to do that, we need to get our forest density right, reduce that overgrown shrubs, get our tree spacing back right, and then hopefully where we can get in our community is reintroducing prescribed fire as the ultimate ecologically restorative maintenance tool, so that we can really foster these healthy, green, resilient forests and multi-beneficial ecosystem benefits. I would say that a lot of our thinning projects, I think we would fare a little bit better than this picture. We're really thoughtful with how we do our forest management and fuel reduction treatments coupled together, so that hopefully we don't even end up with that level of scorch heights or scarring happen in our thinned units here as well. But just wanted to leave you with a couple pictures that shows that this stuff works, and this is why we're putting in all this hard work with the communities. One more thing, since we're coming quickly into fire season, typically June or for sure by 4th of July, is that we will have a formal declaration of fire season called out here when those conditions warrant in partnership with CAL FIRE. And when we go into our fire season, we do have a campfire and barbecue ban. So that means you can no longer burn charcoal or wood at your residence, and we ask that you switch to gas fire pits and fireplaces. Propane, natural gas, or pellet smoker style grills are all still allowed. So enjoy your outdoor campfires and your charcoal briquettes while you still can, knowing that we're going to be switching to gas and pellet smokers only here probably in the next few weeks. And one more thing that we can't go without saying is that wildfire is always coming, and we want our community to stay prepared. So there's some great resources available from CAL FIRE through their Ready, Set, Go program to really have you think about being ready. Being ready is already having your defensible space and your home hardening items fully completed. So if you've already done that, give yourself a big pat on the back. That's really the biggest step to being ready. Getting set is making sure your family has a general plan. You've talked to your family. You've talked about the possibility of having to evacuate during a wildfire in our summer months. You've created a general wildfire action plan for your home. Maybe you've assembled a go bag or a wildfire emergency kit, just like you do in the winter with your winter weather emergency kit in your car, and that you've signed up for evacuation alerts in our community. So being ready to go is that you've met all of these other pre-evacuation steps. Maybe you take a quick 30 seconds to 2 minutes to prepare the inside and outside of your home for evacuation. Grab your bag, grab your checklist, review the plan that you've already done, and go when you get that emergency evacuation notice. So just want to remind everyone that's what we're talking about when we're talking emergency preparedness. And these are great frameworks that you all can use in your community, in your HOA, in your Firewise group to make sure that you're leveling up your education component with your community. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you, and I can't leave a meeting without giving you guys an action plan. So let's make sure that we're doing 5 things this summer. One is getting zone 0 right, so clearing that 5 feet around our house. 2 is at least managing the dead vegetation and managing the live vegetation. Meet with us, get an address signed so we know where your house is at, schedule an inspection, and most importantly, talk with your neighbors and sign up for emergency alerts at tahoealerts.com. So with that, we will feel free to use the raise your hand feature. There should be a hand icon that says raise in the icon bar of the screen, and we're happy to go live and unmute you and do some live question and answer.
All right,
All right,
it looks like Lauren raised her hand first. Lauren, you are unmuted.
I think you will have to click the microphone on your end. Hey, Lauren, if you see your screen, you will have to click the microphone icon to turn on your microphone on your computer, and then you'll be able to talk.
Oh, I got it. Sorry, I'm a little slow. I'm a little slow. First of all, thank you for this presentation. This is fantastic. I live in Prosser Heights. I'm on the Alps Firewise committee, and we actually have our community work day this Saturday, so we're getting ready for that. The question I have, and I've had a few homeowners ask me this. I know that it's helpful to know that we're up for reinspection in July, or I guess some are inspections, some are re-inspections. The question is regarding enforcement. Do you guys have any plans to enforce anything going forward, or are we still sort of in a kind of a casual mode?
No, it's a great question. It's a question we get quite a bit. And so, our inspections are under California law for defensible space. So we do have code in California adopted locally by the town of Truckee, our counties, and Truckee Fire. So there are mechanisms to enforce. So if you do have major issues or egregious fire hazards in your community, please go to our Defensible Space webpage and file a complaint with us, or better yet, schedule an inspection with us and talk to us about the complaints the way that you see them from your property. So we can go that route. What we do is if the property is in kind of worser condition than the general community or that more egregious fire hazard, basically it becomes a case that primarily Sophia on this call manages, and we go through a 30-day inspection cycle. So typically 3 or 4 inspections over a summer period. And most of the time we end up getting engagement with the property owner and getting work done. The one caveat is that we kind of are in a spot where we're not actively fining or scheduling hearings. But if we have cases that are truly egregious and we kind of have positive pressure from the community to enforce, it is something that we could consider working into either from Truckee Fire or taking an angle with Town of Truckee Code Department or the counties. So I know it's a little long-winded answer, but that gives you a framework of kind of how we're managing those for now.
Perfect. Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, next, I think Mary had her hand up. So I'm going to go ahead and allow your mic, and then you just unmute yourself. It should be somewhere at the top. It's a mic with a cross through it.
Okay, good. All right, so now you can hear me. First of all, I need to second that opinion. This was a really excellent talk. So, is there going to be a recording available that I could share with our Firewise community?
Yes, we will definitely be getting this recording downloaded and shared with you all, most likely by the end of next week.
Okay, and I see that you can also get a transcript. That might also be good just for me, because then I could share highlights to try to get people interested in actually watching it. Then another topic that I had was with the controlled burns. It's raining here. Let me go on the side where it's less noisy. Do they assess the impact on species when they do the controlled burns?
Hey, Mary, yeah, Eric here. So I'm not going to answer this question in a ton of detail since we're so focused on defensible space. It's really just kind of lining up that where we need to get for healthy, resilient forests is really kind of that coupled approach, right? Initial stand density management, fuel reduction, community protection, and then hopefully getting back to ecologically beneficial wildfire on the ground. But yeah, in California, prescribed burning that's conducted by any public agency goes through a pretty rigorous California Environmental Quality Act compliance, so environmental compliance, as well as burn permitting, burn planning, notifications, air quality management, all those type of things.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Julie, I am allowing your mic and you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Great, thanks. So my question relates to, I'm the Firewise lead for the boulders, and I see that we are up for inspection this summer, and we are also up for our risk assessment for our Firewise plan. So do those two overlap? Or is that going to be two separate inspections?
Hey, Mary, that's a great question. And so, I think it'd be best if you emailed that to our Firewise email, firewise@truckeefire.org.
Okay.
But they are separate. So yeah, inspections are defensible space inspections on each individual property. And then Firewise programs has its other process requirements of updating those risk assessments that really looks a little bit, kind of bird's eye view of the community risk, and then the updated action plans to keep you all working towards reducing that risk. So yeah, it's intentionally working together, but they are separate.
Okay. And then what does the inspection look like when you're talking about a condo complex? What you guys
Yeah,
are
great question. So good news for us is that condo complexes, anything that's a multifamily residence or public gathering places, actually have fire code requirements with state mandated annual inspections. So they get a fire and life safety inspection requirement inside and outside annually. So what we do is if we notice non-compliance on an apartment, a condo, schools, hotels, motels, any of those type of uses, we document what we see, and then we pass it off to our fire marshal and his staff, and then they work directly with the property owners and managers to swiftly gain compliance. So that's something that we've elevated here at Truckee to the fire marshal's office. So if you have anything in your community that's not looking safe with those, you could always shoot us an email and I can get you in touch with our fire marshal and his inspection team to make sure we get those taken care of.
Great, thank you.
Mary, you had your hand up still. Did you have another question? Or does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to either speak out loud or drop in the chat?
Well, I think everyone that has been in the chat, I've been working to make sure I respond to the chat as well as the Q&A piece. So hopefully you have a couple minutes to look through those and see the responses that we have. And next steps for us is we just want to thank you all for joining the meeting and getting this education with us. We'll be working on packaging this recording, getting it posted up on our truckeefire.org/dspace website, and sharing it out in our Firewise letter that you all get from us. So that way you have a couple different ways that you can grab this recording and share it with your community. So with that, I want to say thanks again, and we look forward to working with you all throughout this fire season.